Right now, a record number of millions of workers are quitting their jobs at a time when employers are desperate to hire. Have the tables turned and we're now entering a new golden era for workers? Or may today's quitters wake up tomorrow with regret? Welcome to Wealthion. I'm Adam Taggart, founder of Wealthion, here with a short explainer video on the current Great Resignation phenomenon. Last month, a record 4.4 million people quit their jobs. Folks have been resigning from their jobs in staggering numbers since the second half of last year. The reasons why are many, but simply put, many workers are no longer willing to put up with the pay or working conditions they accepted prior to the pandemic. All in all, the U.S. labor force has dropped by 5 million since the pandemic started. About 60% of that number were people retiring, a lot of them taking early retirement. Goldman Sachs estimates more than 1.5 million of these folks retired earlier than forecasters expected. Most cited stimulus checks and surging stock markets as their principal reason for retiring, as well as persisting COVID safety concerns. Speaking of surging portfolios, another cited reason for America's record quit rate is that a substantial number of people have enjoyed large returns in the cryptocurrencies they've invested in. Following a recent online survey run by Civic Science, we received this headline earlier this month. I quit. 4% of Americans have resigned from their jobs for crypto gains. Now, personally, I find the 4% figure cited suspect, as that would represent over 8 million American adults, much more than the BLS quits report shows. But I think directionally there's truth here. Those seeing nice crypto gains no longer feel the need to be stuck in a job they don't love, especially those with entry-level and frontline jobs. Supporting this, the survey revealed that nearly 2/3 of those who reported quitting were earning less than $50,000 per year. As Civic Science themselves said, quote, "This data implies that crypto investments may have provided life-changing levels of income for some." Okay, so for one reason or another, we have a lot of people telling their employer to take this job and shove it and walk it out the door. This has contributed to the current employee shortage. Companies, especially those that offer low-skill, low-wage positions, are having trouble finding enough employees to fill their job openings. Let's face it, there are a lot of jobs out there that aren't much fun. Low pay, understaffed conditions, demanding managers, and angry customers, especially these days, given all of the delays and stock outages caused by the current mess with supply chains. So many people are leaving the job market that, according to the latest stats from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the jobs opening rate is at 6.6%, having spiked by nearly 50% since the beginning of the year. So it's not a huge surprise then that given the relative scarcity in workers, as well as urgent hiring needs to address pinch points in supply chains, plus fast rising inflation, that wages are starting to go up. Employees are finally clawing a little power back. And the data is indeed showing that when quitting for a new job to a new employer, workers are successfully trading up and receiving a higher paycheck. So, is this now a golden era for workers? Is it time for everyone who's sick of their jobs to simply quit or retire early? Well, probably not. I put up this tweet recently and it generated a lot of commentary. And before I dig into it, let me first just say that I fully agree that anyone who's able to should trade up into a better fit job, whatever that means for you. Better pay, better hours, better benefits, better commute, work you enjoy more or find more meaningful, whatever. I am fully in support of up-leveling out of a job that you don't like. Although the realist in me feels the need to point out that many workers don't have a lot of easy, immediately available options to do that. Okay, back to the tweet. So we have a lot of people, millions of them, who are quitting their jobs. Some are moving on to new jobs they like better with a new employer, and some are starting out on their own as an entrepreneur, a freelancer, or a gig economy worker. But others are taking a breather. They presumably got some cushion from savings, leftover stimulus funds, or crypto or meme stock winnings. And others are deciding to retire years earlier than they originally planned. Now that first group, the job switchers, they should be better off, as the data does show that on average they're moving to better paying jobs. It's worth noting though that given today's rampant inflation, that real wages are still declining in today's environment. So that job income is more important than ever. For the latter two groups, the financially flush quitters and the early retirees, which number somewhere in the millions, things should remain fine as long as the status quo continues. But what if it doesn't? After all, as we look forward to 2022, we see a growing parade of serious concerns: a slowing economy, historic levels of asset overvaluation, a fast rising cost of living, and less, perhaps a lot less government stimulus. It's not far-fetched that next year could see painful stagflation, recession, or market correction, or all three together. Stock portfolios and crypto prices could fall farther than most today imagine. It happened in the 2008 crisis. The S&P fell by more than half before the selling was through. Legendary investor Jeremy Grantham thinks the next correction will exceed 50% given current conditions. And notable bubble expert John Hussman just stated a few days ago in this program that he expects a fall of around 70%.
You would have to have valuations about 70% below where they are right now in order for stocks to be at levels that have historically been consistent with historically normal equity returns of about 10%.
In such an environment, especially if the current decelerating U.S. economy were to tip into recession, today's job surplus would revert into job losses. Those who lived through the great financial crisis would do well to remember the carnage as hundreds of thousands of jobs were lost every single month for nearly 2 years straight. Too many of those who lost their jobs during that period were out of work for a year or longer, putting millions of American households into serious financial straits. My point here is to encourage those clocking out of the workforce today to stress test their assumptions and ask, does my future financial sustainability depend on asset prices remaining at or above today's elevated prices? If the answer is yes, well, what would happen if the markets correct next year by 20% or more? Will I have to go back to work? Will I have to unretire? And what if companies are shedding jobs in that environment? What will be my plan if I can't find work easily? Look, I'm not trying to scare anyone. I just want to make sure that the many folks today making the substantial life decision to walk away from the income stream their job provides are taking tomorrow's uncertain macro environment into account. If you are, and you have a good strategy and the means to comfortably weather the risks I've highlighted here, then fantastic. I applaud you and wish you all the best in your post-career life. But if you have any vulnerabilities, think hard on your decision. During periods of recession and market downturns, job income becomes a lifeline. For the millennials and Gen Zers watching, you may be too young to remember the shock and carnage that millions had to deal with in the aftermath of the bursting of both the dot-com and the housing bubbles. Take it from us older folks, you don't want to have to suffer through conditions like that if you can avoid them. And my advice is similar to all of you watching who remain actively employed. Stress test your finances. If the market corrects next year or you get laid off, are you taking steps today that will reduce your vulnerability? Steps like reducing your household's cost footprint, building a 6-month emergency fund, increasing your savings rate, reducing outstanding debt, adding hedges to your portfolio, creating additional independent streams of income, and expanding your professional skills to make you more essential to employers in your field. There's much everyone watching this video can do to improve their financial resilience. Hopefully 2022 instead proves to be a crisis-free year. But if you're a regular watcher of this channel, you're aware of the probabilities we're dealing with here. Take action today where it makes sense. All right, if you like short explainer videos like this and would like to see more of them in the future, just let me know in the comments section below. And please, help support this channel in reaching more viewers by taking just 2 seconds to first like this video and then click the subscribe button below, as well as that little bell icon right next to it if you haven't already. Thanks for doing that, and thanks for watching.